Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I am here with Dr. Sam Rhee and our special guest, Coach Mike DelaTorre. This is episode number 2 with him, I think, unless we made the other one 2. But it's one of the episodes with Mike, not after the first one. I'm still working on my podcast intros, by the way, if you can't tell. So this one, we have 2 that are lined up here, and it's centered around mistakes and mistakes that coaches make, which I'm sure many of you will agree with your headphones in, but also mistakes that athletes make. And these are common mistakes. These are mistakes that we've made. These are mistakes that we've seen other people make. And we're going to start off with the coaches. And I think that a lot of people listening to this never want to coach, are never going to coach. So they would be like, why the hell would I listen to this? And a coach athlete, it's a relationship. And any relationship, you need to make effort into understanding where the other side is coming from. And relationship to me is not always like the lovey-dovey husband, wife, or best friends, lifelong friends. Relationships are people that you interact with on a somewhat consistent basis. And whether you love or hate your coach, or whether the coach loves or hates you, it's still a relationship that needs to be worked on. And part 1 of working on a relationship is not thinking about yourself, it's thinking about where the other person's coming from. So I think from an athlete perspective, you can get a lot out of this. Obviously, the coaches, I think you can get a lot out of this as well, or someone that wants to coach someday. And there's a lot of years of experience. Mike's been coaching for well over a decade now. I'm approaching a decade. And Sam, you've been about a half a decade, almost, about 3 to 4 years.
You're
right?
being very generous with that. I mean, in terms of hours, but
Yeah, no, I know. It's like Mike and I have made this a full-time career, and we've done that for a long time. And yes, we have more experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean better or worse, that Sam's worse or we're better. It's just we have more experience, but I still think there's perspective from Sam that you can get. And I think we already talked about this. We're going to kind of call each other out here with some mistakes that we made and some things that we've avoided, but I think it's going to be a big help for a lot of you guys. I'm pumped about this one.
I think that more people are going to listen to this than anything else because they love crapping on coaches.
For sure.
Yeah. 90% of what I hear from athletes is, why did that person play this crappy?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Like, don't worry. That will be addressed.
Oh, yeah.
That will be addressed.
So
from both perspectives. Yeah, this might turn into a vetting session.
why do you think we did this podcast? So I could pitch.
So yeah, that we did. We're going to start off with the coaches, and this is going to be kind of humbling for all 3 of us. But I think if anyone wants credibility in any area of their life, they have to show humility, not think that they're humble. And I always think humility is how often, and if you want to make this simple, humility can be subjective, what it actually means. To me, it's how often do you admit that you're wrong, and how often do you say sorry to other people and publicly. How often do you say sorry? How often do you admit you're wrong? If your answer is like, I don't really know the last time, then you're not humble. That's my opinion. So the first topic I'm going to talk about here is ego-based coaching versus service-based coaching. And in my opinion, a coach is more of a servant than they are a dictator, and that gets lost.
Yeah, for sure, man. I remember when I very first started coaching, I was coaching high school kids, and it was hard because I was a kid myself. I was like 19, and I definitely did that dictator approach.
Yeah.
And it was definitely like, because you don't know what you're doing when you're first starting out. And especially if you're a kid coaching other kids, it was really hard to like wrangle control. So you have to have some sort of like discipline with high school kids.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I was definitely just way too much of a dictator. And over time, as I was coaching and just got older, really, you start to realize, oh wait, like you need to make bonds with people. That's how you gain someone's respect.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
It's by making that kind of like bond and getting that attachment.
Yeah.
One of the biggest thing is we all have teachers and coaches that are very prickly. Like they don't take threats to themselves very well. And a lot of that is insecurity. I've known so many people, like you have to really kind of watch out because their ego is very big.
Yep.
If you say something that challenges their authority or makes it seem like you're not listening to them or not doing what they say, they get all pissed off. And a lot of that is because they're like, hey, I'm the leader here. You have to follow what I do and what I say.
Right.
And they take anything that seems against that to be an attack on themselves.
Yeah.
And most coaches that I know are secure enough, the good ones, that they can take any of that criticism, roll with anything that people are doing that may sort of look like an attack on them,
Right.
and work with it.
Channel it.
Yeah, and channel it.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with experience, and it comes with security of self too.
Yeah.
So if you have someone who's really insecure, that's a tough thing to be as a coach.
Yeah. I always feel like they're being attacked.
Yeah.
Let's talk about bison, right? Like if you're coaching and a couple of people are talking in the corner, two friends that are meeting up, haven't seen each other in a week, and they're catching up, and you're talking about the workout. Yeah, sometimes in your head you want to explode, like, yeah, you're being disrespectful, but you don't really unless it gets really bad, you don't really address it. But if you're like an insecure person, you feel like you're being attacked. Like you're like, oh, they're doing it on purpose. Like they don't do it to other coaches, but they do it to me. Like that's insecurity. And I don't want to come down on anyone for being insecure or being self-conscious, but how you react to that is more important than what's actually happening.
I think teachers can very much relate because especially kids will work to get a rise out of you. Yeah. And if they see any point of weakness,
blood in the water,
you're self-conscious about something, they will just stick their thumb on that and grind until you, and just to get a reaction out of you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of, I don't want to relate coaching to teaching kids, but
honestly, there are some parallels. There are some. And I would even say sometimes this line gets blurry for a coach because at the end of the day, right? Like you are in charge of the room and there are things that you're in charge of that are far beyond the workout. Like we have to be on time. We have, especially when you coach in the morning, it's stressful. Like I don't want to be 4 minutes behind because I have 24 people coming in and they all come and bitch about not being able to find a parking spot because the 5 a.m. went too long.
Right.
Right. So it's like, you do at certain points have to come across as a dictator, right? And if someone catches you in the wrong moment, they're like, oh, that guy's into his ego. And I think that a coach, you just need to internally know, why are you there? Like you're not there to run the class. You're there to help people. Running the class and the logistics of it is part of your job, but you're first there to serve people.
That's the attitude you need to have.
Right.
And then anything else that springs out of that, whether it's misinterpreted or it doesn't go right, eventually will be okay.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
As a coach, you're playing so many roles, right? Like you're saying, logistically, you have to make sure things are running on time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep people safe. You're also teaching people.
Yep.
And I think, anyone that's taking class with me, especially the 1 p.m., you guys know, dude, I look at my phone and I'm like, all right, 5 a.m., boom, we're starting.
Right.
1 p.m., we're starting because for me, it's, I want to make sure that everyone gets the proper coaching experience. Right. So if I'm delaying class by 5-6 minutes, that's kind of messing with everybody else.
Yeah.
So stuff like
so
that.
you might come across as a dictator.
Yeah.
Right? If you're starting at 1, but you're not. And at the end of the day, this is more internal. We can't turn this into bitching about athletes either. No. But some of the athletes need to know that I think Mike has proven himself for over a decade here. He's here for you. He's here for the athlete, but he will come across as a dictator at some point. So I think I've had people ask me to coach here and I didn't tell them this why, because they didn't ask me why. I would tell them is they want to be in charge more than they want to help people. Yeah, and I just don't think it makes a good coach.
I don't know a single bison coach where I would say they're more ego-based than service-based. They're all service-based in their mind.
Yeah,
they're always thinking not of themselves, but
that's one of the probably main prerequisites of someone that's going to coach here. We've always pretty much approached every coach to coach here, and that's and you get to know them over a couple of years at least, and that's they're there for the right reason.
And I think the more senior and experienced ones, they actually have the least ego because of the experience.
Oh, for sure.
I know I was super sensitive when I first started. Are they critical? What's going on?
Yeah.
And the bigger you are as a person, the less that stuff tends to affect you.
For sure.
So another mistake that I see a lot of coaches make, inconsistent attitude and approach. And how about before I go into what I think about it, Mike, you give us just what pops into your head first about this being a mistake that you've made or coaches have made with their inconsistent attitude and approach to coaching.
I've definitely done this in the past where like, all right, let's think about a workout, right? Like, all right, cool. Here's a workout. Like, so when the programming's sent out, like you can kind of pick out, especially when you're experienced, like, all right, cool, man. Like this is a very technical workout. This is a very simple workout. I've definitely in the past have made the mistake of, all right, man, it's a pretty simple workout. I can kind of like coast through like the warm up and coast through like setting things up. And that 100% has always come back to bite me. So being consistent with your preparation is really, really important. And like, it's not like, you know, it's not like I spent hours and hours coming up with like a lesson plan or something.
Right.
Because I realize now, like the simpler you can make things, the better it is most times.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to come up with a plan.
Yes.
So being consistent with your planning, even if it takes like 5 minutes, dude, that 5 minutes makes such a big, big difference.
And just advice to coaches like in and out of Bison, prospective coaches in and out of Bison, at an experienced CrossFit, the class will know if you prepared or not.
Oh, for sure.
The class will know. If you like putting it together like last minute or as you go, they're going to know. And it's a bad look.
Yeah. I know some people that are better prepared than other, or some days people are better prepared. And as an athlete at Bison, like exactly. The other thing is that me as a coach, like when I'm still on the very early stage for no doubt. But,
right.
You know, when I first started, I was like, okay, who do I know as a coach the best? Well, I've taken probably more classes with Dave than anyone else. So a lot of times I was like, well, let me do what Dave does, or what would Dave do in this situation?
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm not Dave. Like I can't do that. I can't say the things he does. And even if I do, they're not coming across the same way. I have to do things my own way. And I don't even really know what that is half the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like every coach has their own unique attitude, their own approach. And it has to be different. I mean, there's no doubt when I take Ash's class versus Ramson class or Storm's class or Terry's class or your class or Mike's class, they're all really, really different.
Yeah.
Or Taft's class, like really different.
Yeah.
And I will say, I talk to athletes and Susan, like she'll take a midday class and she'll be like, wow, Chris had a really good warm up for this.
Yeah.
And I was like, the fire, you guys warmed up. And he's like, yeah, his music sucked, but the warm up was really good today. And I was like, oh, that's great. And you know what? I hadn't taken a tap class in a while, and I was like, that's great. And for everyone, they're inconsistent to the individual coach is not good.
Right.
But as an athlete, you must be comfortable having a bunch of different coaches with a lot of different attitudes. And you can't say, I love Liz. She's so good. I'm only going to take her class because she's this way.
Yep. That will come up.
F that.
That will come up with the athletes.
You must approach every coach and take what they have to give you in the most positive way. If you're already thinking about this coach and being like, not my style.
Yeah.
You're going to have problems as an athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
I had an athlete tell me over the summer, it's like, oh, I'm only coming to your classes. Like, when are you coaching this week? And I literally was like, no, absolutely not. Because like, I'm confident in my ability to coach, but I know there's coaches here that can help you in ways I cannot. And like, again, it comes back to humility. Like, I don't have all the answers for your issues. Like, I've gone to Mike and asked him for advice on like, dude, I can't get this person's stubble unders. I can't get, like, what do you think I should do with this person's knee, this person's shoulder? And I think that if an athlete has the ability to, go to as many different coaches' classes as you can. I know a lot of us are regimented with what time we work out, and Bison schedule doesn't change that much with coaches when we're in a routine. But if you have the ability, go to as many different coaches' classes as you can, because you'll get a different feel. And that's part of how we've made the staff. We don't want a bunch of Mikes. We don't want a bunch of Daves. We don't want a bunch of Chris's, right? We're not playing fish all day, every day. But I really think there are things, like I could say there are things Chris has helped me with toes to bar that no other coach could help me out with back in the day. Like, wait, Tafaro, toes to bar? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tafaro had a great line one time. He's like, I don't want to learn gymnastics from a 140-pound dude that wears like skinny jeans all day. Like, I want to learn gymnastics from the 240-pounder that can bang out 5 muscle-ups in a row. I'm like, it's a good point, because it's not natural for that person to be able, he had to figure out ways to do it. And I think that's a good example. So when it just comes to the coach having an inconsistent attitude and approach, one thing I can say that I still to this day, I think I struggle with. I don't know if you guys can notice it as athletes in the class. Like if I'm not in a good headspace, like I have a shorter fuse when I coach, like in terms of like, especially with bigger classes when you're trying to like be on time. Like if I have a bad training week and I've had a few over the past like few months and just like not, or something's going on at home, or I get freaking water in my basement again from these big rainstorms, right? Or just being a dad for the first time. Like, I don't want to sound like a baby about it, but like you guys know, being a dad for the first year is tough. Like, you're just exposed to things that you just never used to, and you don't know how to deal with it. And it's tough to like come in with the same attitude every single time. And I've tried so hard to leave it outside the room. And you normally do start off that way, but I've noticed like I have a shorter fuse, and you never like, I try so hard to like walk in like, all right, nobody should know in this room that I'm in a bad place right now.
Yeah, Mike said that.
Yeah. I'd never want someone to know that I'm in a bad place. And if I do think that's a mistake that I made. Like, oh, Dave, you're human. Okay. It's still like, I consider myself a professional coach. And if I'm going to be a professional coach and you're trying to lead others, guide others, like you have to be the one in the room that you're the rock that they're standing.
It's true.
And I think that's a huge thing, that it's a huge responsibility. It's hard to do. It really is.
And that's one of those things that comes with experience.
Yeah.
And just you have to practice it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll notice if there's stuff going on outside of the gym, or I'm having a hard day, kids were hard, whatever. If I'm in not a great mood, one of the things I notice is someone can ask me a question and like, I'm like in my head, I'm like, why did you ask me that question?
Yeah.
It's a dumb question.
Yeah.
It was not a dumb question. Like the person legit wants to know.
Yeah.
And like, for me, that's become like, I've been able to slow things down and identify, all right, man, like you're letting this outside stuff affect you. Just chill. Like you're okay.
Right.
But I also think that comes with a lot of practice.
Yeah. And practice and experience includes mistakes.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure.
Next mistake I think a lot of coaches make is the lack of desire for continuing education. Like you get that L1, you're done for 5 years until you have to renew it. Then I'll spend another weekend, go to my L1, hopefully pass the test. Maybe I'll get my L2. When people told me to like always try to pursue further education, especially when I first started coaching or when Bison first started, when I had like zero money, I was like, dude, I'm not spending $500 on a weekend seminar when I have $900 in my banking account. I was like, I'm not doing that. But I think what is so available to so many people now is quality free material on the internet. And I think it would actually be a huge deal if every coach was forced to, and it would be an honor code thing, that before the day you coach, whether it's the day before, 2 days before, like you just find half hour to, learn more about the movements that you're teaching in that day's workout. So if I know I'm coaching Tuesday 7:15 and 8:15 and we have dumbbell thrusters and rowing, I'm going to spend 15 minutes just kind of looking at some material online about thrusters or mobility that I need for thrusters or rowing techniques. And I think a lot of coaches don't do that.
Dude, and that's the thing. It's easy to do that now.
Yeah. And free.
Free, like I said earlier, man, on Instagram, like Catalyst Athletics, Juggernaut.
Even CrossFit now is pumping out some good stuff.
Dude, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
With the new leadership, they're putting out some good social media material.
It's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's really no excuse for not doing that. Like, I think about all the times that I would just be on Instagram, just like scrolling like an idiot, like looking at stupid stuff.
Yeah, wasting time.
But like you can really use that time now to learn. And all it takes is like even just 5 minutes.
Yeah, really.
Oh, there's so much good info out there.
Yeah.
I think some of it is not just technique related, but just relating to people related. Like, for example, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of it is technique related, like Beyond the Whiteboard, Varied Not Random with Pat Sherwood, who you mentioned, and Adrian Bosman. They do a lot. And they had a coach on who specializes in coaching obese and like injured or basically really sick or debilitated athletes. And not that we have that's something that we have a lot of, but it made me think about applying some of those techniques about how to approach those types of athletes. These are athletes that are really scared of fitness or a gym or any of this. And it's like, how do you talk to someone or approach it to someone who's very resistant to this sort of stuff, who's scared?
Yeah.
And just relating to people, you can apply a lot of what you learn just outside of the gym to becoming a better coach. So continuing education means thinking about your role as a coach and then everything else you've learned outside of it and just continually sort of putting it in there.
That's a good point.
Dude, for sure.
Yeah.
I got into, there was a philosopher named Alan Watts, and I've gotten like really into his books. And that's one of the, like a lot of the stuff that he talks about, I apply into coaching, like making connections with people, realizing that like even though things might not be going great, like outside of the gym, like everything's a balance, right? So like this can be like the good stuff that offsets that kind of stuff. So yeah, dude, you're right. Like your source material doesn't just have to be technical stuff. Like making those relationships with people and finding out ways to connect with someone is super important, because we're all different personalities here,
Yeah,
you know?
for
So,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next two up we can tie together. It's playing favorites and treating it like your social circle. All right. So obviously when you're a coach, it's like, you're not a dictator. You're trying to be there, you're served, but you want to create a fun environment to work in. At the end of the day, right? This place is a business, and we need people coming here and paying to keep the place open, support us, all that good stuff, right? So you need to have an entertainment factor, right? Like people do need to have some fun when they come here. If you never have fun coming here, I think at some point you're going to be out. You do have some people that are like workout fire breathers that are just here for the WOD and they go home, which is fine. But I'll tell you what, if you really took an honest poll of a lot of people, I think a huge reason why the majority of our members come here is to be around some other people that they like being around. And that's fun, right? We spend a lot of our time at work, and a lot of people, typically don't like their coworkers, or they don't like their job, or they're just so busy and stressed out. They want to come here and be able to have fun, but also improve their health and fitness. So you have that. But a coach, they can facilitate that a little bit, but it's not their social circle. And this is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because I have some friends that take my classes, right? And so you guys do as well. And yeah, I want to go over to them and hang out and talk to them and like talk about stuff that's outside the gym, but that can't be the focus. And if you do that all the time, it's going to give a really bad vibe to other people in the class.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where, especially I feel with CrossFit, it's that unique place of coaching, because the community aspect is really, really important, right? So you make really good bonds and friendships with people. I mean, I met my wife through CrossFit.
Right.
So
Were you coaching her?
I was coaching her. Yeah. But like, you also have to have that balance of, man, I can't just hang out with like Dave or Sam. If you guys are in class, I can't just like hang out with you guys to talk about like football and shit like the whole time. Like there is a responsibility. So that's definitely been a struggle, especially when I was a younger coach, just not gravitating towards your friends.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, this is a fun job.
Oh, for sure.
It really is a fun job. Like I've had a big boy job, and I've had the job where I wear sweatpants to work every day, right? And like when I went to work as a broker, like I never really had fun. There were fun moments, just like there's always going to be fun moments, but it wasn't a fun job. It was a cool job, but it was not fun. And here, like I do have fun most of the time I'm here, but I don't come here to have fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Like,
What do you think about athletes? I think some of them would complain, or I would hear saying, so-and-so coach always just pays so much attention to that person.
Yeah.
They're always working on their form or helping them out.
Yeah.
And I'm in the corner and I don't even get a whatever, like one comment.
Yeah.
Or why did they put that person up on the front? And I'm all the way back in Siberia. Like, listen, I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I know it. I know it happens.
And so how do you deal? Because, I mean, I personally don't have enough experience to really sort of deal with it. But when you're a long-term coach, there are athletes that are extremely sensitive to that sort of thing.
So a couple things. Number one, personally, when I put people in zones, I just go either in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order. I'm just like, all right.
Awesome.
Sometimes I'll do like,
I'm going to use that actually. That's a good one.
Yeah. Sometimes I do like girls on one side, boys on the other side. Sometimes I will experiment. I'm like, all right, man, like I'm going to put so-and-so next to so-and-so because I think they'll push each other really good.
Right.
When it comes to, I know obviously sometimes we're at the mercy of the pull-up bar.
Right.
That's
high,
low bar. When it comes to like focusing on someone versus not focusing as much on another person, two things. Number one, like sometimes I know that I can do a better job like circulating through class. I'm like,
sure.
shit, I definitely spent so much time in this zone. I should have gone like in that back corner more. So there's that for sure. Like there's sometimes as coaches, man, like we'll kind of miss it a little bit.
Yep.
But then also there's people that are newer or people that are maybe they're dealing with some sort of limitation that we have to make sure we pay attention to. So they might get the extra attention because if you're a newer person, if you have say like a shoulder thing going on or a knee thing going on, you got to make sure you pay attention to that. They'll take the priority and then I'll circulate around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I'm going to write this one down in my head and bring this back up when we start talking about mistakes athletes make. But again, humility. I have been told this before that I favor certain athletes that are, it's like the competitors, right? Like, and
The good ones.
the good ones, right? And like define good. Okay. Like what does good mean? Right. But anyway, and I've been told that. And again, I can take that as like, all right, you know what? Like maybe I do need to. The funny part is though, wait, am I bashing athletes now? Again, I'm going to say this for it. No, I'm just going to say like, I've had those athletes, like people told me like I helped out Ryan Ratcliffe too much one time. And Ratcliffe and I talked one time.
Well, you think about him a lot.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way.
Yeah. From a previous episode. And he's like, I actually remember telling him, I was like, man, I have a hard time coaching you because you do everything so well. Like, I don't have much for you. I remember he came up to me, he's like, hey, can you watch these clean and jerks? And I'm like, I couldn't find anything. I was like, you could probably finish your pull a bit. You're over the bar instead of behind the bar. But like, that's it. And he goes, all right. And he works on it. And I don't think I've gone down that path of, I am favored toward the sport. I do like people that compete in the sport. I like coaching them, but it's because I like the sport. It's not because I like coaching them personally more. And I think a lot of athletes just take everything so personally here because they're just always looking for reasons to either like critique or I'm not getting better at this because of someone else, right? Like that's always that. But I will say that I gravitate more towards people, and this is not a good thing. This is a mistake. I gravitate more towards people that are very ambitious with their goals. Like they're very intentional with the way they work out. So then when they're really intentional, like I want to give them a lot of details, right? Like the other day, I coach in a way where like I try to give a lot of details, like how many reps per second are you going to get if you're going to finish in this time? We did this crazy workout the other day where I wrote down on the whiteboard, I said, if you guys want a sub 13-minute time, you need to be 21 reps per minute in this workout. If you want 18-minute time, you need to be 17 reps per minute, something like that, right? When people take that in and they like start asking questions about it, like I do gravitate towards that kind of athlete, and it's a mistake, right? But they are also the ones that need more attention because they're so detail oriented, right?
That's a good point.
And there are some athletes that they've been here for years. They're obviously not detail oriented. So if I see them doing something wrong or unsafe, then yeah. But if I see them resting 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds in between sets, like I'm not going to go critique them because I know they don't really care that much. They're just there for the workout. They don't care if their time was 14 or 18. They're just there to work out. They go home and that's it. And I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
So I do think that a coach like myself, that I do feel like I coach the sport a lot and I do coach obviously the fitness side of it. I can come across as someone that is more favored towards the sport. In my defense, I feel like I'm on trial right now. In my defense, the sport of it needs more detail.
I will say you definitely pay more attention to, in my opinion, to the sport-oriented athlete.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I don't mind personally because I know, like, I would hate Ryan Ratcliffe from listening to you, except I know Ryan Ratcliffe.
Right.
And the guy would never seek out attention or try to pull more towards him.
Well,
I have seen him when you coach him and he's like, all right, this is the way I'm going to approach a workout. I'm going to split this. I'm going to try to do this unbroken.
Right.
I'm going to try to finish this by this round by this time and see if I can hang on.
Right.
And you're talking to him. He's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good or blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I'm like, that's great because you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to look at the clock the entire time. I'm just going to go by how hard I can go.
Right.
When I look up, that's what I did.
That's what your time is.
And that's it. I'm not, if I try to split my time the way Ryan is, I'm going to die.
Yeah. And also, if I came up to you mid-workout, I'm like, Sam, you're 14 seconds behind.
Right.
Sam, you're 19 seconds
You know
behind.
what I would say to
You'd
you?
be like, fuck off.
Yeah. That would be exactly what I would
So this is what I'm saying. It's like and this is going to come back up again on the athlete side of it, because it's a hard line to draw. And I'm not saying I have it figured out, but I will always make the effort, and every coach should do this, to get to every person in the class at some point, whether you have 22 people in class or you have 6.
Yes.
You got to get to every person.
Yeah.
And are you always going to have a queue? Like, don't fake a queue either. Don't be like, Britt Darcy gives me a hard time all the time. She came into class yesterday. It's like the first time I've seen her in class in a long time.
I saw her name up there. I was like, yeah,
she did awesome. And she always like would make fun of me first thing, because I'm always like on the elbows. I always talk about people's elbows when they front squat, when they thruster. I'm like, get your elbows up. So I would always say elbows. And she was like, I feel like you just say that when you don't know what to say. And I was like, try getting your elbows up consistently, then I'll stop saying.
Well, dude, I mean, like, there's also one of the things I used to do. You guys probably did the same thing when you first started coaching. It's like, you over cue someone.
Oh yeah.
So you tell them a million things.
That's tough.
And then they freeze. So like, one of the things that I've learned through just experience is like, sometimes less is more, where you have to let a person practice the movement before they get it down. So if you're like really like nitpicking to the point where you're giving a cue like every like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Number one, that's probably going to annoy them. I know they would annoy me.
Yeah.
And then secondly, there's only so much that they can process.
Right. You're not helping. Yeah.
You're not helping.
Yeah.
You're not helping.
Yeah. We had a new member in yesterday's class. I had 2 new members, like literally, I think their first or second real class. They just got out of beginner back-to-back classes. And the workout yesterday was hang cleans,
right,
with running and step ups. Not a complicated workout. The hang clean, like I tell the class, like, it's not a high skill movement, but you know what? For someone that's ever done it before, it's a high skill movement.
Absolutely.
Right. So like, again, mistake. Shouldn't have said that with new people in class. If I had a class full of like veterans and like, all right, guys, if you've been doing CrossFit 2 years, like, you should know how to do a hang clean by now. Right.
Right.
So I go over to her, and your comment brought me to that story. Is there was like 5 things she's doing wrong. And you're in your head, you're like, all right, you got to do this and then this and this. But you're like, all right, what's the like order of operations?
Right.
With cues? Like, what's the first thing we got to make sure you're doing?
Yeah.
And then we'll work on like your wrist and your elbows. Then we'll work on your and my biggest thing with the hang clean is like, just make yourself as tall as possible as you're coming. Like, jump as high as you can, especially when it's a lightweight and it doesn't seem dangerous. Like, that's like, in my opinion, that's like the first thing someone's got to learn is stop trying to curl it up.
That's good.
Jump. All right. And then once you get that, okay, knuckles down. So that kind of stuff. Right. If I went over and said 4 different things at once, she'd be like, you're not helping.
No.
Yeah.
No. Not at all.
I usually try to at least focus a little bit. And I'm so beginner, but it doesn't really matter. I try to focus, even because the quiet ones who don't say anything, they're really pretty good. Like, we have a bunch of them. They're quiet. They do their work. They move pretty well. I do try to at least say something before they leave to each of them. Sometimes it's just, I notice your overhead squat mobility is really good.
Yeah.
Just something like that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes your overhead squat, like sometimes you hit some, like, but then others, like your first 2 are a little less, and then you seem to go deeper every time.
Yeah.
Like, I'll try to say a little something so that they know that it's not just ignoring you. Try to put a touch point on at least all of them, because people are so sensitive. And I don't think most of them realize, hey, listen, you have a newbie. You have to spend like 90% of your time helping that person.
Yep.
Or that class is so huge and you got like all this stuff that you have to manage.
Yeah.
And they don't notice. They just notice me.
Right. No, we're all here for, like, when we come to work out, we're here for ourselves.
Right. So just trying to help with that can sometimes help a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just had a thought on that topic. It just left my mind. I'll go on to the next one. And
by the way, I do like when you coach me, but not on a daily one, because most of those I'm just sort of grinding on my own.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, anytime I'm doing something high stakes, like, I really do need to hear you in my.
Yeah. And honestly, Sam, like, this is, it's like, I know that. Right. And I know, like, on certain days, like when the open comes around, or a certain workout that I know you really care about, like, this is another thing about being a professional coach is like, you're going to have to know when to put your foot on someone else's throat.
Yeah.
And tell them you got to go. It just can't be all the time. Right. And that's another thing with like athletes, like, you just got to stay out of, I'm going to quote Kathleen, you got to stay in your lane. And it's like, if a coach is working with someone else, like you just don't know what's going on there. You don't know what they talked about last night. You don't know what they talked about 2 days ago. And you're probably biased towards yourself anyway. So but when I coach Sam, like I made a comment to him yesterday about his 205 hang cleans, like we're the best, some of the best I've seen. And I think this is what I was going to say. Like I had a conversation with you and I asked you questions, right? I think a lot of coaches make the mistake. They never ask questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really good
like
point.
I really think like if you ever want to come across as understanding, humble, and a quality coach, like just note how often do you ask someone a question about their workout? Like, Sam, what'd you do different today? Like those cleans look really good. And you're talking, I was really thinking about my squat clean. All right. So like that might help me help somebody else out.
Yeah.
But it also just gets like a connection between Sam and I. So when I coach Sam in 11 weeks from now and he's struggling on his 215 power clean, I'm like, yo, Sam, remember squat clean. Like just say that. And then like that might click something in his head, but you don't find that out by asking questions. And again, are you a dictator or not? A dictator doesn't ask questions, right? A dictator is just more barking out instructions. I think you should like put thought into how many questions you're asking other people.
That's a big thing. Like when, one of the questions I'll ask someone is, how does that feel? Like if I can see that they're doing something a little bit off, I'm like, all right, how does that feel? And I'll say, it doesn't feel great. Like most times, like say they're doing clean, they're cashing it low. Give them a cue, correct it. All of a sudden they're cashing the clean properly. I'm like, all right, cool. Now how does that feel? I'm like, oh, it feels so much better. Like sometimes it takes that question for it to click in their head. So asking questions too.
Another one, this is my last one. I don't know if you guys have any others, but the last one I had for coaches is lacking of professionalism. And this could be like an umbrella over what we've already talked about, but self-critique here on professionalism. I don't really care like how good you look when you coach, like if you're dressed up or not. Like we want you to look like you're there, not look like a slob, right? But I often have to, I have to work out before I coach sometimes. And I hate like finishing my workout 3 minutes before class starts and I'm dripping in sweat. It's not a professional look. It's not. And in my head, I'll rationalize it saying like, well, I'm so busy and like I have to work out in this window. And this year, like I've had conversations with both you guys about this. Like I am going to be on the selfish side this year with my training. And if that means, but I've been doing this for years, right? I had a conversation with Liz about this, like literally a few nights ago. I was like, I'm really trying to get that out. Like I worked out this morning before I coached 7. And I was like, I have to be done by 6:45. And that gives me 10 minutes to like chill, put new clothes on. And in the summer, it's really tough because I just sweat all the time. I'm sweating right now. And like, I hate like just that feeling of like my shirt is filling with sweat as I'm talking about to the workout. And you also should not be out of breath while like talking about the workout, right? And like, think about this, like most people don't care in our gym, in my opinion.
That's true.
But think about someone that's new. That's like if I went to a gym and I dropped in and the coach was dripping in sweat talking about the workout, I would have a bad look on that gym.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that? Just being a professional coach.
I mean, that was a big thing. Like this morning, I partnered up with Matt L. I told him, I was like, Matt, I have to coach the 8:15 and 9:30, and I have to make sure that I have like some brain cells left. So I'm not going to go full send. It's like, it's such a unique job though, because part of our job, and
is to be involved.
It's to be involved. Yeah, dude. So, but you're right. There is that measure of professionalism where like, you don't want to look like a slob. I think with some people, just some people I've met in my life, they don't look at our profession as like a real profession.
Right.
Which I'm like, honestly, like, whatever, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't really care. But does it bother me a little bit? Yeah, it bothers me a little bit. So like, if I can look as like professional as possible, as like groomed as possible, I guess, even if I do grow a big beard sometimes, it definitely lends an air of respectability.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah.
I mean, we're representing bison.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Dude.
And when
true.
we're coaches, you have to think that. And for me, it's most important when I'm doing on-ramp. And I've done a fair amount of on-ramp more than anything else.
Yep.
And I always make sure I have a shirt that says CrossFit Bison. I'm not wearing get ripped or go home shirt or something stupid, right? Like buck burpees or something. So I will always know that I am their first contact as a bison coach a lot of the time.
Point.
That's a big deal.
And so I talk to them like a professional. I am representing CrossFit. They've never had CrossFit before. Most of them, I say, what's your experience with the CrossFit? It's like, this is the first time.
Yeah.
So to me, if I'm not representing well, I might turn that person off of CrossFit forever.
Yeah.
And that would be awful.
Yeah.
I mean, we believe in this methodology. We believe in this. And I had like, listen, when I see Dave, he changed it. But I know Dave, like that's not a problem.
Right.
And most people also understand that.
Yeah.
But
There are some that don't.
yeah.
That's true.
And so I do remember one time I took a class and then I did do an on ramp and I felt really, even though I changed and everything, I didn't feel like really like I was presenting my best.
Right.
And
But I'll tell you what, man, like this is where it's not a big deal, right? It's like viewed as not a big deal, but I'm huge on this, like just mantra for myself. If you constantly find yourself saying it's not that big a deal, you're dying a slow death. And like, it could just be like that one little inch, it's like almost like getting hurt, right? Like when someone hurts their shoulder, it wasn't the workout that hurt your shoulder when it actually got hurt. It was the thousands and thousands and thousands of things that weren't a big deal, whether it was your food, your sleep, how you worked out, how you moved, that eventually it went.
right.
And I think that's something that you just always keep in the back of your head. Like, yes, in the moment, it's not a big deal. If I'm a little like really sweaty at the start of a workout or out of breath, right? But it's just like another negative mark that if you accrue too many of those negatives, eventually it's going to be a big deal.
I just think I'm not representing myself. I'm representing everyone else around here.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point. Do you guys have any other, I actually have one more that's popped into my head, but do you guys have any others, like just mistakes that you've made or things that you think other coaches currently make?
Yeah.
So logistics. I think a lot of our gym does a really good job of this. So there's no one from our gym that, I don't think any of our coaches really think about this because I get questions all the time. Like if I have a rowing workout, Mike will hit me up 18 hours before the class. I was like, yo, how many rowers do we currently have that are like working right now? Because we have a few that don't work or some that are inconsistent, and we'll talk about it. And we'll break workouts down sometimes. Like, hey man, like, start group 2 at the 2-minute mark and start this group at the 4-minute, and then make sure you have these guys running at once, and make sure next Wednesday's workout is a huge logistic workout. There's going to be rope climbs in it. We have 6 ropes and we're not hanging up 10 more ropes before Wednesday. So if you have a class of 22 people, there's 3 different workouts in that class. They're all 7 minutes long, I think. And one of them has rope climbs and push-ups, right? So you're just going to go back and forth. You need to plan this stuff out way before the class starts.
Dude, for sure.
And again, people will know if you did not, right? If you're sitting there and there's 6 ropes and there's 11 people that want to use the ropes and you're just, all right, guys, 3, 2, 1, go. People are like, wait, I have to share a rope with someone that we're going back and forth between push-ups and a rope climb. That's going to throw off my workout. In some cases, the people got to suck it up. But if the coach is able to, you start some people on that workout, and then they switch during the 3-minute rest. And then, so you always have your own rope. And it's a very simple thing to do. But if you're not thinking about logistics as a coach, then I think you're doing it wrong.
Oh, dude, for sure. Because that lends to the class experience, right? Like you want everyone to have fun.
Yeah.
Like you want everyone to have fun, have a great workout.
Yeah.
And if that's off, especially if you have a big group of people, dude, if that's off, it's going to throw everything off. People can tell.
My experience, the reason I'm like that now, I'm so OCD about that stuff. It's probably the one thing I'm really OCD about is just making sure even at Hoboken, I remember there was a lot of workouts. I'm like, dude, this is not working. Like I can't get a workout in because I'm waiting for these 3 people to get off the row, or I can't get on a rope climb. So I have to go change the movement, even though I came in to do the rope climb today. It's like, it sounds so like not a big deal, but I'm a paying member, right? And I should be getting what I'm told I get to get by coming in.
That's true.
I don't know if we're going to talk about our own weaknesses or our own issues, but I just coached a group class, a partner class, a Saturday class, which I hadn't done in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And if you've done it a long time, there are things that are automatic.
Yes.
And for me, the amount of conscious brain power I needed to deal with logistics, like I almost felt my brain was going to fry. So the first was dealing with figuring out partners. And I was like, even Dave was helping me, and he's like, keep checking right up until the time of the class.
Yeah.
And even then, and I was like, people should be pretty good. And then, sure enough, 4 people dropped. And I was like, what the hell? Who's so rude as to do that? And if you're an athlete, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't hold it against you.
Yeah, I know
you are, but I don't hold it against you. I hold it against you. And then I was like, okay, so now rig, low bar, high bar, where am I going? And then it was like, okay, now I had this warm-up prepped, but you know what? How many PVC pipes should I use green bands? Like, what time will it take for them to freaking get that and bring it back?
Yeah.
Like, how can I make it more efficient?
Yep.
Am I what movements I'm going to have them work out, warm up with, which will like make it faster, but still like get them warmed up for the movements that they want. And fortunately, that WOD wasn't too complicated.
Right.
So it wasn't that I had to deal with that so much.
Yeah.
But all of that at the same time as you're like getting everyone hooked up.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the athletes were really great for the classes. So
Yeah.
most of them moved on auto,
Yep.
and they know what they're doing, and they know how to scale weights or figure out all this stuff, which was really good.
Yep.
I only had a couple beginners that I had to deal with, like one basically. So that was okay. But that's when you're experienced, it becomes second nature, just like everything else at your work, right? There's a lot of things
Performing plastic surgery.
Yeah.
honestly, that's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
Because there's some operations that if you do enough times, like you can prep this amount and you'll still be good.
Right.
But when you're doing something and you're learning it, the amount of prep,
Yeah.
especially like you go to a new hospital, for example, and you're like, okay, I don't know where I don't know how far the recovery room is from this. I don't know like who's going to be staffing my. So when I first started, I would go to the hospitals the day before and be like, hey, I'm Sam Rhee. You don't know me, but like who's working tomorrow and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And you get all that stuff set up because it's so inefficient when you're not doing it often.
Yeah.
And that's the same with coaching. And you guys make it look so seamless.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a 24-person Saturday, and it looks seamless. I mean, listen, it's still a little chaotic because athletes don't listen to what you do, but
time is coming.
you take it. You take it for granted. You take it for granted as an athlete, and then when you're on the other side, you're like, wow, this takes a lot of practice to make it go smooth.
Yeah.
Which I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, that's a huge, thanks for that, Sam, because it's a huge part of the coaching at a busy gym and busy classes, busy back-to-back classes. And that it's, again, you can tell if someone either just hasn't had the experience yet, and also if they just didn't put time into it. Like if we didn't and that's part of the reason why we do pick partners. Like I know some people aren't wild about it. It's not changing. We're always going to pick your partners on a Saturday. And that's a big part of it. Like especially if there's like a double dumbbell workout, like I can't have every pair getting 4 dumbbells. We don't have enough. Right. And this is a big part of it. And like, I don't think people understand that or think about it that often when they get mad about their partner. So that's another topic. That's coming. The last logistic thing I'll have, and I think we could wrap it up, sounds like, is the volume and that which you coach with. Like you got to be loud.
Oh, dude.
Especially in a big gym like this. And I'll tell you what, you got to turn down the music when you're when you're talking, and you got to turn off the fans. And it's like, I like run to the fans in between classes sometimes. I'm telling you, it throws you off. Like even like, I think Mike he worked out with the 7 this morning and coached the 8:15, and I did not keep things on. We ended like a few minutes too late. So he had to kind of put himself together, get the pairs written on the board for a big class. So he started coaching the class, and I had noticed that the fan was on in the corner. And like I sprint back there as he's like starting to do the workout talk, and I turned it off, and it makes a huge difference. But I think some coaches are very unaware because they can hear themselves and they know the 3 people, but there's like in our gym, you could be 100 feet away from the coach. And if there's any background noise, whether it's music or fan, they're not going to hear you. So if you're trying to coach, they're not going to hear you. So, and that's the coach's job. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the mistake episode with coaches, athletes. Your time is coming. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.